Most people's fear of the CISSP isn't really about the material. It's about the unknown. A test that adapts to you, won't let you go back, and might end before you expect. In this lesson, we pull back the curtain so that nothing on exam day surprises you. This is the lesson that takes you inside the exam room. In this lesson, you'll learn 3 things. First, how the adaptive exam works and why you can't revisit a question. Second, the question count, time limit, and the scaled score you need to pass, along with the 8 domains and their weightings. Third, the kinds of questions you'll face, and exactly what happens on exam day, from check-in to results. Let's start with how the adaptive exam works. The CISSP is delivered as a CAT, which stands for Computerized Adaptive Testing. As of the 15th of April 2024, every language version of the exam uses this format. So this is what you'll face, no matter where you sit it. Understanding the CAT removes most of the mystery. So let's take it slowly. In a traditional exam, everyone answers the same fixed set of questions. A CAT is smarter. It chooses your next question based on how you answered the last one. Get a question right, and the engine tends to serve something slightly harder. Get one wrong, and it eases off a little. The test is constantly hunting for the exact level where you're right about half the time, because that's where it learns the most about your true ability. Think of it like a personal trainer adding weight to the bar. They load it, you lift, they load a little more. The moment you start to struggle, they've found your limit. The CAT does the same thing with question difficulty, calibrating itself to you specifically, rather than to some average candidate. If you remember one thing from this section, remember this. Because the exam adapts, seeing hard questions is a good sign, not a bad one. Difficult items mean the engine thinks you're performing well and is pushing to confirm it. Don't let a tough run rattle you. It may be a compliment. There's one rule of the CAT that catches people off guard, so let it sink in now. You cannot skip a question, and you cannot go back. Once you answer and move on, that question is gone forever. There's no flag for review, no returning at the end with 5 spare minutes. Every question is final, the moment you commit. A word of warning, no skipping, no revisiting, no flagging. If you're used to exams where you bank the easy ones and circle back to the hard ones, you must unlearn that habit before exam day. Each question gets your full attention, once. Now let's move on to why you can't go back. Why is the CAT so strict about this? Because the engine has already used your answer to choose the next question. If it let you change an earlier answer, it would throw the whole calibration off. The whole adaptive chain behind it would no longer make sense. The path you walked was built on the choices you made. Letting you rewrite history would break the math. This changes how you should pace yourself. In a traditional test, you might rush, knowing you can review later. Here, there is no later. So the right approach is to read each question carefully, decide, and commit, then release it from your mind completely. Dwelling on a question you've already answered does nothing but burn focus you need for the next one. There's a useful mental image here, walking a tightrope. You can't look back at the steps behind you without losing your balance for the step in front of you. The only place your attention can safely live is the question on the screen right now. A candidate who keeps replaying, "Did I get that crypto question right?" is staring at the rope behind them while trying to take the next step. The skill to practice before exam day is letting each answered question vanish the instant you submit it. This also has a practical upside. Because you can't go back, you'll never waste time agonizing over whether to change an answer. Many test takers lose points by second-guessing correct answers into wrong ones. The CISSP quietly removes that temptation. Here's a quick tip. Treat every single question as if it could be your last, because it might be. There's no coasting and no banking time for a review pass that will never come. Steady, careful attention on each item is the whole strategy. The next idea is question count, time, and scoring. Here are the format facts. Commit them to memory, because knowing them calms the nerves. The English CISSP CAT serves you somewhere between 100 and 150 questions. You get a maximum of 3 hours. And to pass, you need a scaled score of 700 out of 1,000. Notice that the question count is a range, not a fixed number. This trips people up. So let's unpack it. The exam stops as soon as it's statistically confident about whether you've passed or failed. If you're clearly strong, it can be sure after about 100 questions, and will end there. If you're clearly struggling, it can also end early, having concluded you won't reach the bar. And if you're hovering right around the pass mark, it keeps going, gathering more evidence, possibly all the way to 150. A word of warning: an exam that ends at 100 questions does not mean you passed, and it does not mean you failed. Early stopping happens at both outcomes. Do not try to read your result from when the screen goes dark. You can't, so don't torture yourself trying. Now that scaled score. Why 700 out of 1,000 rather than a simple percentage? Because not all questions are equally hard, and the CAT gives you a personalized mix. Two candidates might answer a different number of questions at different difficulty levels. A raw percentage wouldn't be fair to compare. The scaled score solves this by accounting for the difficulty of the questions you actually saw. The fairest way to picture it is a curve. Imagine an exam graded so that being handed a harder set of questions isn't a penalty. The scaling lifts your score to reflect the tougher mountain you climbed. So you're never punished for the engine deciding to throw difficult items at you. Those hard items usually mean you're doing well. Here's a quick tip. Don't panic if the exam ends sooner than you expected. Early termination is normal and happens to passing and failing candidates alike. Walk out, take a breath, and wait for the official result rather than guessing from the question count. The next idea is the 8 domains and their weightings. The CISM exam content is divided into 8 domains, which are broad subject areas. ISC2 assigns each domain a percentage weighting, telling you roughly what share of your questions will come from it. This is gold for planning, because it tells you exactly where your study hours pay off most. Here are the 8 domains and their official weightings. Domain 1, Security and Risk Management, is 16%. Domain 2, Asset Security, is 10%. Domain 3, Security Architecture and Engineering, is 13%. Domain 4, Communication and Network Security, is 13%. Domain 5, Identity and Access Management, is 13%. Domain 6, Security Assessment and Testing, is 12%. Domain 7, Security Operations, is 13%. And Domain 8, Software Development Security, is 10%. Think of these weightings as a diet pie chart. If you're budgeting calories, you spend them where the big slices are. The same logic applies to study time. Domain 1 alone is 16%, the single largest slice, so it deserves the most attention. Domains 2 and 8, at 10% each, are the smallest, though you still can't ignore them. If you remember one thing from this section, remember this. Domain 1, Security and Risk Management, is the biggest slice at 16%. It's also the home of the manager mindset, which we cover in an early lesson, covering governance, risk, law, and ethics. The thinking style you build here pays off across the entire exam, so this is where your effort compounds the most. Let me show you how to use these numbers. Suppose you have 80 hours of study time. A naive plan splits them evenly, 10 hours per domain. A smarter plan weights them. You'd give domain 1 around 13 hours and the 10% domains around 8 hours each, adjusting up for whichever domains are personally weak. Notice we're combining 2 factors here, the official weighting and your own weak spots. We'll build a full schedule from exactly these inputs in the study planning lesson. Here's a second worked example to make the pie chart logic stick. Imagine the 8 domains as 8 items on a restaurant bill. You're splitting by how much each person ate. Domain 1 ate 16% of the meal, so it owes the biggest share of your attention. Domains 2 and 8 each nibbled 10%, the smallest portions. If you paid every domain an equal share, you'd be overpaying the light eaters and shortchanging the big one. Weighting your study hours is just paying each domain what it actually owes on the exam. There's a subtlety worth naming. The domains overlap more than the neat list suggests. Risk management ideas from Domain 1 reappear when you study operations in Domain 7. Access control concepts thread through several domains at once. So time spent on the heavily weighted, foundational material in Domain 1 quietly pays dividends elsewhere. That's another reason the biggest slice deserves your earliest and best energy. One caution worth stating. The weightings tell you the share of questions, not the difficulty. A 10% domain can still sink you if you skip it entirely. Treat the percentages as a guide for emphasis, not as permission to abandon the smaller domains. The next idea is the kinds of questions you'll face. Most of what you'll see is multiple choice. A question called the STEM, followed by 4 options, of which 1 is correct. These dominate the exam. The skill of reading them carefully, spotting keywords, and eliminating wrong answers is so important that we devote part of the study planning lesson to it. You'll also meet a smaller number of what ISC2 calls advanced innovative items. Don't let the fancy name worry you. There are two common types. The first is drag and drop. You drag labels or items into the correct boxes or order. For example, you might be asked to place the phases of a process in sequence or match terms to definitions. The second is hotspot. You click the correct spot on an image or diagram. For instance, you might click the right device in a network diagram or the correct zone in a layout. Let's go a layer deeper for a moment. These innovative items aren't worth more points, and they aren't more common than standard questions. They exist to test understanding in ways a 4-option list can't. The good news is that they're often easier to reason through than tricky multiple-choice questions, because they ask you to demonstrate a concept directly rather than pick between 4 cleverly similar options. Don't fear them. The honest takeaway is that the question format is rarely what makes the CISSP hard. The difficulty comes from the subtle, judgment-based wording of the multiple-choice questions, where 2 answers both look correct and you must choose the best one. Format is the easy part. Reasoning is the challenge. The next idea is what happens on exam day. Knowing the logistics removes a layer of stress, so here's the day in order. First, arrive early. Get to the test center at least 30 minutes before your appointment. Rushing in flustered is the worst way to start a 3-hour mental marathon. Second, bring valid identification. You'll need acceptable government-issued photo identification, and the name must match your registration exactly. A mismatch can cost you your appointment, so check this in advance. Third, check in and store your belongings. Staff will verify your identity, take your photo, and have you lock your phone, bag, and notes in a locker. Personal items don't come into the exam room. Fourth, get settled at your station. A staff member walks you to a computer in a quiet, monitored room. You'll usually get an erasable note board and marker, plus optional earplugs or headphones. Fifth, work through the exam. You answer questions one at a time with no going back until the engine is confident or you hit the limit of questions or time. And sixth, finish and step out. When the exam ends, you leave the room and collect your belongings. The clock generally keeps running during unscheduled breaks, and 3 hours is a long time. A 5-minute break you didn't need to take is 5 minutes of exam time gone. For results, most candidates receive a preliminary indication of pass or fail on paper from the test center shortly after finishing. The official confirmation comes from ISC2 by email afterward. If you don't pass on the first attempt, that's not the end of the road. ISC2 sets waiting periods between retakes, and many strong professionals pass on a later try. We'll talk later in the course about the common mistakes that cause a first attempt miss. A quick word on nerves, because they're normal. Almost everyone walks out of the CISSP convinced they failed. The adaptive engine deliberately keeps you near your limit, so the experience feels relentless by design. Feeling beaten up is not a signal that you failed. It's a signal that the test did its job. Try not to read your fortune in your feelings. Let me put the whole experience together in one short walkthrough, so the pieces connect. You arrive 30 minutes early. Show identification that matches your registration. Lock your phone away, and get seated. The first question appears. You read it carefully, choose and commit, knowing you won't see it again. The questions feel hard, which, remember, is a good sign under an adaptive engine. Around question 110, the screen tells you the exam is over. You have no idea whether that's good or bad, because early stops happen both ways. You collect your belongings, take the preliminary slip from the staff, and wait for the official email from ISC2. That's the entire arc, and now none of it is a surprise. One last reassurance about the time limit. 3 hours for up to 150 questions works out to a little over a minute each on average, and many questions take far less. Pacing is rarely the thing that sinks candidates. Careful reading is. So spend your minute reading the question properly, rather than racing the clock. The clock is generous if you let it be. Let's review what we covered in this lesson. The CISSP is a computerized adaptive test for all languages as of the 15th of April, 2024. It adapts difficulty to you, and you cannot skip, flag, or revisit any question. You'll answer between 100 and 150 questions in up to 3 hours, and you need a scaled score of 700 out of 1000, with the scaling fairly accounting for question difficulty. Early stopping happens at both pass and fail, so the number of questions tells you nothing about your result. Spend study time by the domain weightings, with domain 1 the largest at 16%, and domains 2 and 8 the smallest at 10%. But never skip a domain, and expect mostly multiple choice, plus a few drag and drop and hotspot items. Let's do a quick self-check. First question. If your exam ends early, at around 100 questions, does that mean you passed? Not necessarily. Early stopping happens at both outcomes, pass and fail, so you can't read your result from when the screen goes dark. Second question. Which single domain deserves the most study time, and what's its weighting? Domain 1, Security and Risk Management, at 16%. It's the largest slice and the home of the manager mindset, so it pays off across the whole exam. Why can't you go back and change an earlier answer? Because the engine already used that answer to choose your next question. Changing it would break the adaptive chain behind it, so every answer is final the moment you commit. That's the exam room demystified. You now know the format, the scoring, the domains, and the day itself, so nothing should surprise you. Next, we turn to how to study for all of it without burning out.